Hi, here's Julie for another episode. I hope you are all well. It's really beautiful for me to be here with you. I have been feeling this call, for a long time, doing a podcast. But sharing, I must say, sharing really the depth of my soul with you all has been freaking me out. It's been so interesting, the journey that I'm going through as I'm sharing those stories because usually it's not very conventional for a therapist to share their own journey, but I do feel that my personal experience have brought me to become a holistic counselor and have brought me to be who I am today. And again, holistic counseling is really the umbrella for everything that I do. So if you look on my website, you will see that I talk about myself as an intuitive, a shaman, and I'm also a spiritual instructor. And so it's so interesting because we always feel we have to label ourselves. And for a long time, that's what I felt. I felt I couldn't share all the psychology, all the human science that I had uh, in me because, I didn't have the title. And life brought me to have that title. It's so interesting. I never ever thought I would be a holistic counselor. And I know I keep saying that, so maybe I should explain. So, all my life, I have been willing to be a dancer. And again, I repeat myself maybe from a previous episode. I never had anything around me that showed me dance. I never saw a show. I was not even attracted about watching shows. It was really the depth of my soul that knew it wanted to be that. It wanted to dance. And it's so interesting because although I was told I never fitted as a dancer, I was told I will never become a dancer, and I'll give you a few reasons. As a ballet dancer, I was the tallest one. I had a gabarit. I don't even know if we say that in English, but I I had shoulders. I was not the I had bone. I was not this slim, tall girl. I was this strong, girl already. And so it was very interesting because then I went into hip hop, and in hip hop, I was becoming blue when I was actually dancing hip hop. And so it was like, no, she doesn't have it. And the reason why I was getting blue is because my heart rate is very slow, which is amazing. But of course, my body had to regulate, and how I was showing that is by becoming very red or blue. So again, I was told I was never going to be a dancer. And, it's quite interesting with me, but I always have felt, because it was such a call in my soul, that no matter what people will tell me, I will continue. And then when I was about 16 years old, I had a stress fracture. And so what happened is that the right head femoral um, in the socket had a chip, so there was this fracture in it. So I broke the ligament, and so I was told by the sport doctor after doing an MRI that I would never dance again. And you know, that was probably the worst thing someone could have told me. But you know what? I rehabilitated myself. So I took a year off of dance. So I was studying at the same time. I was in the dance school. So they said, look, you can pass your year. And I said, no, I want to start my year again. And I did start my year again. I had like 6 months off on crouches where I was rehabilitated by physio and osteo. And I was actually, the first 3 months I had to lay down. I couldn't even walk. And then the next 3 months I could start to move, but with crouches only. So I was out of school and everything because the school was an hour away by train. So it was impossible for me to get in a bus, then get in a train, then walk to the school and then back again. And at that stage, I was awake at 5:30 a.m. out of the house by 6, and so it was really long day and coming back quite late. So anyway, so I had a break from that, and in my head there was no way I was going to stop. There was absolutely no way. So when they say, Julie, you can pass your year, I said, no, it's okay. I'll do it again. And what happened is I at the end of the next year, after rehabilitating my body, because I lost all my muscular mass, I didn't even know how my leg was working again. And so I had to really go back to basic. And so that was in ballet. And we had about 2 classes of contemporary at the time. And it was quite interesting because in contemporary dance, um, yeah, I always felt, my soul igniting, when I was dancing. I felt that there was a story beyond. I felt this flame within me growing, and this fire, and I still feel this fire, when I put a music on, and I still feel this energy that highlight within me. Anyway, it was quite beautiful because we had an external jury that came to examine us, and I got a first prize in contemporary dance that year. So, you can, it's quite interesting. I was saying to you, and I know I'm going to probably repeat myself as I go deeper and deeper, but I just find that quite incredible when even a professional tells you that you will never dance again, or that your life is ending or you're dying. I think we have this ability to heal that is incredible within ourselves. And if we deeply believe in it, and if we talk to ourselves and bring this energy, we can heal. And that was the proof of it. That was the first proof of it, because my life has been challenging like that always. Anyway, started to dance again, and then you know the story. I went in Switzerland, danced in the company, and then I stopped dancing. So I stopped dancing when I was 17, 18 years old. And then at that time, I really thought I would never dance again. And then like I said to you, I went in to do my jury central, which is to study, um, to have my diploma at the end to be able to work. And that ended up being in as an assistant nurse, which I had no idea. So I felt again the universe brought me where I needed to be, because I had really no idea what I was studying. What I knew is that I was going to have this diploma at the end, and it's what I needed to go through. Anyway, when I was 21, I became an assistant nurse, so meaning that I could work in aged care alongside nurses. And I learned so much on nutrition, again, psychology, deontology, human science, really the depth of it. It was quite incredible, a very beautiful journey. I felt that 6 months, that year, but it was 6 months of study in that school, is where I really felt that I belong, which was interesting. I never felt in any of the school that I went that I enjoyed. Although I'm someone who always have enjoyed studying and learning and getting information in, I never felt like I could make friends. It was really, really hard. I had one good friend in each school I went, but the rest of that, I felt like I was this outsider. I was criticized for the way I look or the way I spoke, my accent. And so it was so interesting, because I felt, I don't know why I needed to leave that, but I really did feel ostracized many times, and especially because I was injured and I needed to get out of school. So it was not helping me bonding with my classmate Eder. And so when I started to travel, so my partner and I, when we were 21 and 23 years old, we started to travel in Australia. Again, I never had an idea that I would be traveling, and I remember we just met and Michael was like, look, I want to go and learn English in Australia. I was like, okay, yes, perfect, let's go. It's so funny how I just followed the flow, there was no questioning behind. And so we arrived in Australia not speaking a word of English. And over there, I had the second years I went, I had a very bad injury doing fruit picking. It was quite interesting, we were doing Mandarin picking for the second years. We knew our journey toward that. We were used to it, it was the second year. We are confident. And it was just a beautiful way to make money and travel. But also, it was such an amazing atmosphere because you can imagine, you wake up like at 6 a.m. with the sound of the kookaburra or the beautiful birds. In Australia, you sleep in that little tent. It's super cold, because you are in the bush. So the morning are freezing. And then you have to get into the land where all the trees are. And so everyone parked their car in the alleyway of each tree lane, have a ladder, and we put the music, and we go. And there is competition, who is going to be the fastest. And I don't know, it's just so cool. And everyone stay in the same campsite. And so, everyone go together, everyone in the evening cook together. So there is really this incredible moment that you share. Everyone is on the same journey. It's yeah, and everyone from all over the world. So you discover all the different food, the nationality, the culture. So yeah, I really, really have loved this moment. But anyway, the second year, you have to know, like when you pick mandarin, you can't pick them when it's raining because you can bruise them or they are more fragile. So that day we got a new job. We got to go and pick watermelon. So we arrived at the farm. We started straight away, and the watermelon were on the ground. And so the way you do is like one person pick them, throw it to the other person, and then that person put them on the trolley that goes straight away into the truck. And so you can imagine it was wet. It was like pouring rain. And anyway, I received the first one. And it's like you throw it, but the things is like, how when you throw some things, I don't know how many, the speed of it actually accelerate. I cannot tell you the percentage, but anyway, and I catched it in between my hand and it slept into my sternum and broke it. So I ended up being on the floor and then being like, oh my God, what's going on? Continue to work because I didn't realize it was broken. And it was quite hard. And I got into the car after two hours. We stopped doing that, and then we were packing and learning a bit more. And then, I turned around and I heard the big crack, So it was already broken, and just the fact that I turned around, it really splitted the bone. And so I couldn't talk, I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. And that was my one, I think my second biggest injury. I would break. And so, the sternum is attached to the heart. So again, like a deep wound, my whole body started to be in pain, like I never, like this pain was like crazy. So I was put under very deep drugs. And then you can imagine, we were in a small village in the middle of the bush. So there was no X-ray machine in the hospital. So they sent me in a little bus that was going in the next city. All the people who were injured were in the bus. We were like moving in everywhere. We were so sore because, the road are bumpy, to get there. And arriving at the center to get the photography of my sternum, they took all the photo, but not the angle of my sternum. So when I came back, the doctor said, look, they didn't even do, but I'm not going to make you go back in this and in the truck and do that journey again because I couldn't drive, you know. And he said, look, it's been like more than a week. If it was not broken, you will not be sore like you are. So I, yeah, I was like on a recovery journey. But you can imagine we are in a small tent, two people. I have to crawl in the tent, you know. So like I couldn't even remove my clothes by myself. It was just insane. Like, and so at that moment, I started to have a lot of physiotherapy in that village. And that's where I decided I wanted to either become, yes, a physio or I wanted to. I mean, massage therapist, I was not really thinking about it, although um, when I went back to Belgium, after going to Thailand and experiencing a first massage, I went to study beauty therapy because massage was not really a thing yet. So I was already really in tune with that. But really, that second injury really spiraled me into really wanting to dig deeper into that work because I was like, well, if you cannot be a dancer, let's help the athlete, let's help the people who injure themselves because I was so knowledgeable about it going through, you know, I mean, so many minor injuries and then the stress fracture and then now this break of the sternum. And so continuing the journey, it took 2 years to actually be out of pain. It took me like about 6 or 7 months to be able to work, but I couldn't do fruit picking, obviously. I needed to do something different, so I went to do waitressing or barista. I couldn't even swim, you know. So our travel after it was a bit spoiled, you know, because I couldn't do anything. So we had project to go and explore, but it was so sore. So that's how we ended up arriving in Fremantle in Australia, and we lived there for 7 months. And oh my God, I loved it, the vibe of Fremantle, the smell, everything about it. So we really wanted to live in Australia, but at the time, you know, our English was not really good. We needed to prove, you know, all the years of work. And that was Michael, because Michael was a chef at the time, my partner. And so, anyway, one day, one friend of ours said, look, what are you guys going to do now that your visa is finishing? And we said, we have no idea. What about you? He said, oh, I'm going to New Zealand. And we said, okay, let's go. We had no idea what New Zealand was about. We didn't even know where it was, but we just followed through. You know, we a bit like that. We have been a bit like that all life. You know, we went to Thailand, had no plan. We took a train to Chiang Mai, saw a bus where it was writing Julie Guest House on it, and we jumped in it. And, you know, we followed the sign. Like, it's so interesting. We always have been like this. And so we, yes, we left for New Zealand and we decided to buy a van because our van in Australia didn't really work. You know, we really wanted to do a journey in a van, but we ended it up in a mini Hyundai Excel and did a round of Australia with that. So that year we were like, okay, let's try to make a van. So made a van, had so many issue with it, as I'm sure like so many people have issue with van when they buy one. But anyway, we ended up very quickly in Wellington, and I think like 1 or 2 months after we arrived in New Zealand, and we never left. And so I studied massage therapy, and it was so interesting, you know, because even in New Zealand, even before I was like a massage therapist and was considering, you know, the course and what I was going to do, I was already offered to buy business. I think I had 3 business offers even before I studied massage therapy. Anyway, I went to study massage therapy and decided to go straight away as a business on my own. And so I worked from home for a bit. Then I worked for some company doing mobile massage. And then I work for different places. So because it takes a while to build a clientele. So I started to go and gain some experience in two different places. And then someone guided me to multidisciplinary clinic where you could rent a room there. And so I rented my first room in that building with all the therapists, and that blew up. That was incredible. I started to have so many clients, and people just wanted to continue to work with me. And then one day, one client said to me, "Look, Julie, there is one of my friends who have a clinic, and everything is organic because I was all about organic and natural." That was also my difference, is that I wanted, because I had so many issues with chemicals, working and doing facials. My hand were bleeding and were completely opened. So and also you have to understand, because I had my third injuries actually. So I was working for a spa, and I injured my back very badly that I couldn't even walk. And that was the catalyst of me making the decision of finding a place to go on my own. And it was not even I was not even thinking about opening a business. I was just thinking that any clinic will be using chemicals, and that I couldn't put myself in that again. And also seeing what it was the damage it was doing on me. I was like not even imagining the damage it was going on to do on the client. So that's how this concept came true, and that I rented a room and that it became a business. And then this woman said to me, "Do you want to rent a room in this clinic?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, perfect. Let's do that." So I moved to the other clinic, rent the room. It was really aligned because she was also using everything organic, natural. She was a beautiful woman. And then I think she was in her late 50 at the time, and she wanted to sell her business. And so she said, "Julie, do you want to buy my business?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that would be amazing." And so I tried every bank. Every bank refused to give me a loan. So I was like, "Well, I can't really buy this business." And then one day I went to her and I said, "Look, no one is willing to give me the money, but what if we found an arrangement between us and I pay you over 2 years?" And she was like, "Yes." And I was like, "Wow, this is just incredible." And so that's how it started. And so I had a clinic with 3 treatment room, one reception, and it was so magical. I loved it so much. It was really, really hard work, really hard work. And then um, I think it's, if I calculate well, is probably 4 years in that I start to be feeling that I'm dying. And I feel it to the core of me. I know I'm dying. And I go and see every practitioners, and everyone tells me the same things. "You need a holiday, Julie, you burnt out." And fair enough. I was working 100 hours a week. I was teaching dancing for myself. I was running the clinic, being the HR, the therapist, the trainer, being everything. And I had an amazing team with me. But I was like, I don't think it's burnout. I think I'm dying from some things. And anyway, so during that time, I was like, I kept hearing, "You need to close the business. You need to close the business." I was like, how? I have no idea how. I just don't know how to actually do that. To me, it's impossible. Like I had like years of gift vouchers, and I had client and so many clients, and I just didn't know how. Anyway, so I tried to sell the business. The business would not sell. I was doing that, quietly on the side for 2 years. It would not sell at all, and it was like, you need to close. But I was like, I want to sell. I want to have some things from it. It was like, no, you need to close. It's quite interesting what the universe wants from you. And anyway, so I'm extremely bad, on all levels, but I keep going. I probably have like bypass all my limitation, and working on adrenaline by then. And then we go back in Belgium for a holiday. And I go on a holiday with my mother. And my mother is like, Julie, come on. You told me you were bad, but this is actually insane. Because it was probably like back then 2 years I was not sleeping. I had massive shooting pain in my whole body, electric shock, we call it neuropathy. Um, I I will spend my night on the cold shower or on the cold concrete to make it pass, and it will not pass, or like put like peppermint oil all over my leg to not feel the electricity shock in them. And I had like vertigo, and I had like, I mean, so many things. And by then, I already stopped teaching. I already stopped dancing for myself because I couldn't even stay without having like nausea and feeling that I will faint. I had the feeling I would collapse. I was treating my client, and they have the feeling I would collapse and die right there. That was horrible. And the pain in my body, I thought, was from dancing and from massaging, because you can be in pain. We're not going to lie about that. It's painful to use your body like that. Anyway, so back in Belgium, after being on holiday with my mom is like, okay, no, we need to do something about this. This is not okay. So I go to see a natural doctor, and then um, I go I get a treatment from it, but still don't know what we're talking about here and what's happening with me. And then my best friend said, look, go and see my mom. Her mom is also a doctor, a natural doctor. And I go, and she tricked me into this. That was so funny, because I was like, no, no, it's okay. I already saw someone. And then she's like, oh, I forgot the thanks to my mom place. So um, we have to go anyway. So anyway, go there. And the first thing she asked, can you show me your blood test? So I'm showing her the blood test I had done here in New Zealand. And she's like, oh my God, Julie, what the hell? Like, why did no one told you anything about your blood test? These are horrendous. And I was like, no, no one is telling me anything. Everyone is telling me I need a holiday. Um, and that's it. She said, okay, we just need to run more blood tests, and then I'll give you a treatment. Anyway, I have a consultation with her. We do the blood test. She give me a treatment, and she said, yes, Julie, you are dying. If you don't change your life, that's what's going to happen. A word were that if you're not changing your life, that is what's going to happen. So I knew, and I was, at the same time, I was relieved and so scared to hear those words. But finally, I was recognized for what I was feeling. So I have my treatment for 6 months, and she said, look, if it's not better after 6 months, let's contact me back, and we need to find another solution. And so I go back in New Zealand, and straight away, I feel this wall. I never felt that. Oh my God, I feel this wall. I can't go back to the clinic. I have to close. That was so strong. So we came back in August, end of August, and I felt this. And I said to Michael, look, we are closing. And he said, what? I'm like, yeah, I have to close. I just cannot go back. And I'll give you a few understanding behind that. So I had 3 staff, And I knew already one was going to go, and she was established for about 2, nearly 3 years. And then while I was away, another one gave me a resignation. So I was out of my 2 full-time staff that I had for 2, 3 years, so they were very well established. And a new one just started. And so while I was away, I also tried to find new therapists, but I couldn't find any. And so, I came to the conclusion that I couldn't work more. I needed to actually slow down because that was part of the deal of me getting better. And also, um, finding a new staff on the top of the staff that I already had. So, that didn't add. And I felt it in the depth of my core that I needed to let go. And it was so interesting during that journey because as soon as I said I need to close, my dog started to limp, and it took 2 weeks to close the business. I knew already who was going to take it over, which is so interesting. I got a message very clear that I needed to contact one of the therapists I knew. And so the first things I did is send her a message and say, no, I'm not looking about anything, but I was just asking her if she was still looking to move into a clinic. And then I heard, call her. And so I called her. I said, look, I need to close a business. And I know you were looking to have a place to expand. And she said, oh my God, Julie, I never wanted to be your competitor. And all the place I have been, it's not been working. So that would be incredible. And so within that 2 weeks is what happened. She took over with her business. I closed down, and then my dog passed during that time as well. So it was really the end of a cycle. It was just insane. So, not only I was already in a state, an horrible state, but going through that really broke me because what I didn't realize is the place this dog had in my life, and she was everything to me. And I felt physically that I miscarried. It was so interesting. So I don't know if she um, reopened a wound that was already there or this was about, but I know the feeling. I felt that miscarriage. It took me 4 years to go over her passing. And I have had dog before, and I have been so close, and so it's why it was so interesting. Um, and so yeah, so she actually during the 2 weeks she started to lose um, the feeling in her back leg, and she started to be paralyzed. So life brings you this energy as you shift and other things goes. And then a few weeks later, Michael's dad also um, passed. So it was really a crazy time because it was like saying goodbye to my baby, which was my clinic. I nurture it like a baby, business. You put all your soul and energy in it, and then saying goodbye to my other baby, and then my health that was gone, and then Michael's dad that also left. So it was quite bad. Like, so anyway, Michael had to go, and when he came back, he said, Julie, you're not getting better, you're actually worse. And so I contacted back the doctor in Belgium, and she said, look, you have all the symptoms for Lyme disease. And I know a lot of you might not know what Lyme disease is. So it's when you are bitten by a tick, and that tick have all the Borrelia, and there is so many bacteria that can come with it. And so I was like, yeah, well, it could be possible. Normally, you have a circle um, that actually appear on your body if you have been infected by the disease itself, but not always. And so I recall that when I was 8 years old, I was in a scout camp and I had 5 tick over my belly. And I said to mom, do you remember that? And she said, no, they never told me. So again, they were removed, but the time I was too young to remember if I had any um, circle appearing or if the staff, were actually looking at those things because we probably were all full of tick. Anyway, so because my mom was not aware of it, she could not have done anything about it. And she was really behind that stuff because Lyme disease is a really horrible disease. So that is really not recognized at all. And that often is bypassed, by a lot of practitioner. And um, so I was completely lost. Honestly, I was completely lost because in New Zealand, Lyme disease doesn't really exist. Tick either. And so I just didn't know what to do. Anyway, I started to do some search and I found a medical herbalist naturopath who was actually testing and going through that. Because also, finding doctor that help you with that are super expensive. And you can imagine, I just closed my business, so it's like I'm out of work. I'm like, how am I going to do this? And anyway, I have my first consultation with her and explain all the symptoms that I have. She said, look, if you don't have Lyme disease, I don't understand because you have all the symptoms are that. And she said, look, we need to do a blood test. Yes. So the blood test, so you can imagine I'm in New Zealand. The blood test is done in Germany. So my blood will need to be sent from New Zealand to Germany. And the cost of it was actually um, 2.5 grand. I mean, oh, sorry, $2,500 New Zealand, which is insane, And why is it so expensive? It's because with a normal blood test, when the Lyme have been in your body for so long, it often is missed. So you have to go through there's really deep blood tests to actually understand where it is in your body, what type of bacteria is affecting you, what it is affecting. So it's very, very complex. And so anyway, I battled because I was like, I don't have that money. But anyway, managed to get the money and then had the test. And so the blood test came. So we went into lockdown and the blood test came 2 weeks into lockdown. So that was also quite crazy when I had to send my blood because it was actually at the moment where everything was starting to shut down. So I didn't even know if my blood would arrive on time. And the blood have a time of survival, apparently. I mean, longevity. I don't know how you say that in English, but anyway. So anyway, it came back and it came back positive. And so I could start the journey toward that. When I started the treatment, I couldn't walk. So I couldn't even stand like 2 seconds. So for me being here today, now it's been, 2019. So it's been nearly 6 years. It's a long journey. It's a massive journey, but oh my God, like when I look at where I was, I couldn't even walk, and now that I'm able, to move, to go on hike, that I think, often people don't understand why I share so much me in the bush and me walking, but it's because, when you haven't been able to, and you can imagine, I was a dancer. So I use my body to actually move and express myself. And then I couldn't even walk. It was massive. It was really massive. And so continuing the journey on that, I was still looking, to find a job because I was like, well, I need the money. I was living on a credit card because at the time, I needed new treatment every week or second week, and it was like $600 every single time. So it was insane, the cost. I mean, I will not change anything for the journey I have taken. I decided to go fully naturally. Um, I knew that was in my heart, how I wanted to heal and go through. Also, for me, understanding why Lyme came in my body, because there is always a reason why an illness show up, like I have shared to you. So that's been a long, long journey to understand the reason why. And yeah, so I keep applying for job, and then this job appear one day, I think 6 months later, a bit less maybe. No, not actually a bit less, because I started the treatment in April, and the job appeared in June. And so the job was to be a student support, and I had in for a dance school, a professional dance school, who actually um, help student dancer to become professional. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually, it was my dream. Like I said in a previous episode, it was my dream to either massage or choreograph in that school. And then this job appeared, and I was like, no, I don't know. Like, should I apply? Should I not? I keep battling between yes, no, yes, no. And because I had no idea if, I mean, I had the skills, um, because it was my background, but I didn't know what completely it was involving. And so anyway, I sent my application, and I didn't hear for a month. And then when I heard, I had an interview, and I started the next day. And that was quite incredible. And so I started this journey, and it was amazing. I loved it. It was really challenging, of course. Um, but it was beautiful. And so as I was, in that work, I realized that I was actually doing counseling. And I have the background because I had the background in psychology, and because of all the people I have heard with massage therapy, people share their lives. So I knew how to hold the space for people, but I thought it would be good for me to have my qualification. And I keep hearing holistic counseling, holistic counseling. And I'm like, this is so interesting because I have no idea why you're telling me this. I don't even know what this is. And so I started to search, about holistic counseling. And I came on some things that existed, and everything that they were sharing in the course, it was already everything that I was doing. So that was quite incredible because it was all the intuitive side, but it was all the psychology side. It was the sign, it was the color therapy. It was everything that I could have imagined in one course, and that was me. And so, yeah, I decided to jump into that journey to have the title, to be able to continue to do what I did. And then when my job finished in the school, that's what I did here. And that is been my journey since then, since 2021, the journey of being a holistic counselor. And so it's quite incredible. And so why I wanted to share all of that, because at the start of this podcast, what I had in mind is like, no matter where you are in life right now, you are exactly where you are meant to be. And I know sometimes, when you are experiencing a really challenging moment where your whole life is put in question, man, where you have no idea where you're going, where, front of you it's completely empty, or yeah, you just don't know. The universe know, your soul know, and everything that you are going through is going to teach you what you need for the next stage of your life. If you think about it, when I worked for the New Zealand School um, of Dance, well, first, I been a dancer, so I knew how it was to be a dancer in the competition. I knew what it was to have injuries and to go through that, so I could support, students when they were going through injuries, because you go through that and mentally it can take all the hold of you. I did assistant nursing, so I knew everything about psychology, nutrition, taking care about yourself, the way the brain work, the way the body work. With my dance study, I knew all anatomy, physiology, the whole the whole art of dance, the history of dance. With massage, I knew the body. I could actually support people in that sense as well. So it's been incredible. If I look back, everything that I have learned that was exactly meant for that. And then that was my journey to become a holistic counselor. So that's what I want to say to you. Don't think too much. When you are in a place and where you think like, well, I'm not supposed to be here, I want to change, the change is going to show itself, I can tell you. And sometimes we want to change, but sometimes we don't realize the change that are going to come in our life. Because when I heard that I needed to close the clinic, I also felt that a big change was coming. For years, I felt it. And I thought, oh, great, it's going to be an amazing change for me. And then all of this happened. And then we went into lockdown and the world shut down, So it was quite interesting. So enjoy the life that you have right now. And I know it's hard, when I say this, because sometimes it's very dreadful to go through some places in our life, and sometimes it's not enjoyable at all. But even if it's not enjoyable, take the time to live those moments, because they are teaching your best lesson, your what you are going to use in the future for where you are going to be. And you don't need to know that right now. What you need to do is being present with yourself and gather the tools that you feel are important to you, even if at the time you don't know why they are there and how they're going to serve you. They are going to serve you in one point. And so, yes, so that's the message I wanted to share with you. I know it's been a long journey to get there, but I think it's a very important message. Your soul know the experience it came to live here on earth, and it's going to guide you exactly where you need to be for your next journey. But it doesn't mean where you are right now, it's not already the best place. So be present with every moment that you are experiencing. And it doesn't mean, you're not creating action. Look, all the action that I have had to create in my life to arrive there. But again, the journey is going to be shown. And if you look at my logo, there is the unalome in it. And the unalome is this line that gets you to enlightenment or to your goal or where you need to be. But if you see, there is like another line that is intertwining the straight line. And it's simply to say that there is no journey that is straightforward, nor it should be. The journey is meant to take you wherever you need to gather the information you need to arrive where you need to arrive. And so all of those moments, they need to be lived. They need to be explored and enjoyed, no matter if you feel you need to be somewhere else. Because like I was saying in one of the other episodes, the only things, the why you feel you need to be somewhere else is because your brain is projecting the insight you have received. So actually, if you let go of the projection, you can fully surrender to the life that you have and the reality that is in front of you right now. And that doesn't mean you're not going to fulfill your dream or manifest whatever desire you have in your heart, but it means you can actually live each step that gets you there. Because what is a life that gets you to the goal, but then you never have enjoyed the journey toward it? It's not a life. That's survival. And it's so, so important to be able to enjoy each step, because that is also the reminder of who took you there and what you had to go through to get there, and your growth and your evolution and who you have become. And also, when you look back, you will want to have enjoyed all those moments, because when you arrive at the goal, you're like, oh yeah, what is the next goal? Because that's how humans are. It's like we have learned to achieve. That's the brain, but not the soul. The soul is here to experience emotion and duality and what it is to be here on earth. So try to really connect your soul and your mind together. Therefore, you can really enjoy the journey that you are walking through. All right, I'm going to leave you here because this episode is quite long. I'm going to send you so, 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 so much love. And I look forward to seeing you in another episode. You take good care of yourself. Bye.